and welcome to this BuyBot Pro video. Today I want to help you navigate the new user interface in comparison to the old one to help you get to your favorite features faster. Now lots of you are loving the brand new update. I know that lots of you do, and that is awesome. We basically rebuilt BuyBot Pro from the ground up with sleekness and ease in mind, and to really just bring BuyBot Pro into the modern era, into 2025, and give it a complete sort of like refreshing feel and look to it. And we just wanted to make the analytical process the very best it can be, even better than it already was for you guys. And I would think that we have definitely achieved that with what has been done. And what the plan is, in the grand scheme of things, is to eventually retire the classic version and then obviously just have this new version. And it's really important to make the transition from the old to the new. And what I wanted to do today was to make this video to help you with that transition, because I know that obviously it's not always the easiest thing to move with changes and things like that. Change is important, change is good, it helps us move forward, but obviously it's not always the easiest thing to do that, especially when you're really used to something like the old interface. And obviously I know for some of you, just down to personal preference, you really like the old version, and that's fine, that's normal. However, with the plan that's in place and needing to retire the classic version eventually, I want to help you make that transition. So I want to show you some of the key differences between the two, and obviously show you the upgrade on the new user interface side, and go through some of the changes, and just help you find some of your favorite features in the new user interface, and just show you the upgrade, especially when it comes to things like the Google Sheets. Say, I'm sure every one of you will agree that what has been done with it is just amazing. So it makes logical sense to me to start from the top of BuyBot Pro, work our way down, and then go into some of the other bits. So I'm going to try and keep this as to the point as possible. Obviously, the first thing you'll notice is the feel and look of the interface. I mean, there is quite a difference there. I don't know if, yeah, there we are. So I mean, just looking at the two side by side, obviously this has got a very, I mean, you can just tell right away, as I was saying, you've got that very sleek, modern look to the new version. As I say, it was made with simplicity, ease, and modernness sort of in mind. And then obviously you've got the classic version, which has that retro, simplistic kind of look. And obviously, as I said, there are some of you that will still really like this version because of your taste, and that's completely fine. That's normal. Now, I think the first thing you'll notice, besides just the look, is obviously BuyBot Pro Island. Now, this was an optional thing that you could have in the classic version, where it was in the middle of the page and it was like a snapshot of the key analytical bits, to help you make sort of like a quick decision about a product. If, say, you had a lot to work through and was in a bit of a rush, or just wanted to see things like eligibility or IP right off the bat, because if there was red on IP, for example, there's not really any much point. There's not much point at all actually going through the rest of the analysis and spending time on that when you can't really sell it anyway. So the island was its own separate thing. It literally was an island in the middle of the page, and that was optional. But if you like having stuff like that, and I think it's quite cool to have that like snapshot kind of deal. However, if you've got lots of other extensions and things, like especially if you've got Profit Protect Pro and you like using that Chrome extension, it is like a really cool part of that software. Obviously, you've got these extensions and things, and any other extensions that you may have that appear on the Amazon page, just there, and they move certain bits around. They might, cover certain things. There's just lots, like some of them can generate lots of white space, and so throwing on the island on top of that, I'm sure, for some of you might have found that a bit like, whoa, there's just lots going on here. So it kind of defeated the purpose of the island. So what we then did was we removed the island completely, and instead added this quick info section into BuyBot Pro. And my advice to you is to move this to the top of your panel. So just go into your preferences and make sure that quick info has been moved up here. I'd have overview at the top, quick info, and then the rest of BuyBot Pro. Obviously, it's your preference, so you can have this in whatever way you want. It's completely down to you. But if you want to have that snapshot as soon as you go onto the page, then I would have the quick info at the top of the panel. So it's got all of the same things. Obviously, it doesn't have the storage fee slider on it because it's literally right here in the detail section, so there's not really much point in having two on there. You can still change the buy price and the sell price, which isn't something that you could do over in the classic version. You'd have to change that over on the main panel still. So it's basically a refined version of the island just within the main panel. And if you've got that in the top, then you can do your quick analysis without having to touch anything. It's right there. Okay. Especially if you've got auto analyze on, like you don't even have to enter in any pricing. Of course, if you want specific results, then you would of course enter in pricing, but just for things like say eligibility and IP, like right away, then auto analyze, boom. So let's move on. So the calculator, obviously there's currency conversion in the new BuyBot Pro. The old one didn't have the buttons to do that. Obviously the retail wholesale toggle and all of that's still the same. For things like the buy price VAT override and things like that, I think we just need to change the settings in here. Let's just change that. Let's save and sync. And get that back up again. Yeah, so things like the VAT override and so forth, and the buy price VAT override. Obviously, those things when you need them are essential, and especially for like the buy price VAT override, it was a little bit hidden, unless of course you were to click on that button. Whereas in the new version, it's a bit more sort of like forthcoming with that kind of stuff. So you've got all of that there. I think I just need to change the settings in this as well. Let me just save and sync that. Yeah, so you've got all of that in there as well, and it's just shown right here. You don't have to click on anything. It's not hidden. It's just all out there for you. Also, another thing as well is the EFN and PAN toggle. Like you can choose where your inventory is placed in, where like the Amazon store you're selling in, and if you use CEE, so the Central Europe program. So you can really get nitty gritty with EFN and PAN. So that way the fees associated with that are as accurate as can be. The old model, it was just it was a bit more straight up, as in it just had the EFN and PAN. Like there was no way to refine that and get it as accurate as it can possibly be. So you have that bit more accuracy with the new model. Everything else though, like the merchant fulfilled toggle and so forth, all that's the same thing. Just obviously the calculator, it's a bit more forthcoming in the new version, and things like EFN and PAN, you can refine that more than you could do in the classic version. The next thing is the dashboard and alerts. Obviously you had two different sections for this. However, thinking about it, it just made sense to put them all in one thing. So you've got all of your indicators all there in one go. Read it all in the same place. That just made perfect sense to do that. Obviously, you can still auto-engate and things like that. None of those functionalities have changed. The tooltips, the indicators, all of that is exactly the same. It just made sense to put those things together. So then it just means that there's, you know, less. There's just less things taking up the space in the BuyBot Pro panel. So it's all in one. It's all refined. It's much simpler having it together like that. Things like the details and so forth, that is virtually the same. Or I mean, a lot of the sections are the same, just with a refined kind of look. Suggested purchase quantity, confidence score, obviously it's all together. And then like the three things that to consider, the three things that BuyBotPro has picked from this analysis, they're all displayed here. Whereas if we go to the old version, let me just do an analysis. If we go to the old version, you'd have that here. And then to see the sort of like the three top things to take from the analysis based on what BuyBotPro's assessed, you'd have to hover over this to get that information. Whereas on the new version, it's all there like straight up. The competition analysis is another one. So in the classic version of BuyBotPro, you just have the top 10 sellers, and that was basically it. In the new version, it's the same thing. You've got the top 10 sellers there, and that is the live data. However, what you can do is switch on over to recent, and this is actually cached data from Keeper if they've stored it, where you can see more than the top 10 if there are more than 10 offers to show. Obviously, there's only 10 in this case, but if there was anything more, like if there was 15 sellers, it would show you all 15 sellers and any information about them that was kept by Keeper, it would show that all there. What you can also do is download the competition data into a CSV if you want to do that. So you just have a bit more in this competition analysis. Obviously it's been refined, so instead of being as, I would say, chunky as this is and having this data spread out like that, therefore taking up more space in the panel, it's all sort of like put together like this. So it just makes for simpler and easier reading. Another sort of like key change is the variations. Just whilst we're on there, obviously this listing doesn't have any variations, but let's move to one that does. That's now in the main panel. In the classic version, if we move over here, obviously it was its own sort of like box. Sometimes you, depending on the item and how things were laid out on the page, you might have had to hunt for that a little bit, but it was its own separate box like this. Now, maybe you liked having that side by side, but I know for the majority of you, having like all these boxes, especially if you were to have Island and any other extensions and so forth, it's just another thing that's on the Amazon page, just taking up space, moving things around and so forth, and generating more white space. Obviously, you'd have it like this, and you've got all the details in there. You've got the bar charts and so forth. However, we thought that for easier reading, to have it here in the analysis panel as well, so you don't have to hunt around for it. It's just always there. And obviously having a pie chart instead, which helps bring all that information together so you can read it all in one go. Whereas with bar chart, you have to read sort of like from left to right, like you would do a book, and you've got that for size and color as well. You've got the full list of what's going on here as well, and you can scroll across to see the rest here. You can still filter by FBA, FBM, and obviously click through to a specific variation if you want to. You can search. So it's all the same stuff. It's just refined. You've obviously got that pie chart there. Obviously, I know that we like to work with different charts, so it could potentially be that we have an option in the future to change between different types of charts in here. I don't know. That could potentially be something that happens in the future, but obviously for now it is this pie chart, but it helps, you know, make things a bit more simpler when it comes to reading the variations and understanding which one is the most popular one. And obviously it's not separate to the panel, so it's just all together, nice and neat. The charts is another sort of like major point in BuyBotPro that I know you guys have sort of like fed back to us. I know that for some of you it is, let me just get some of the analytical data on here. I know that for some of you, you liked having the charts below the item and being able to read them a bit bigger on the actual Amazon page itself. Obviously, you'd have the mini ones in here as well. But what you can do over in BuyBotPro, obviously, they are not there. You have to go on to, if you want to see them bigger, and you can see them much bigger than you ever could before, because obviously we've got that brand new web view, you can just click through and see them on a much bigger scale in here. Obviously there's a new color scheme, which makes it a bit easier to read things like the averages and so forth. You've got all of that stuff in there on a much bigger scale than it ever has been. But obviously, if you want to read it on the page and you personally don't find the mini ones to be as helpful to you, obviously the mini ones are great if you just want to, you know, quickly flick through. But if you want to analyze in much more detail, what you can actually do, if you have BuyBotPro on this look right here, what you can do is actually drag this panel out. And I don't know if perhaps it's sort of like the worst kept secret kind of deal, but you can actually drag this out. And then you've got the charts that bit bigger on here. And in fact, when you get it to the full length, I would say that that isn't too far off what the classic version size of charts were underneath the item. And obviously you can still enlarge them in here as well. So you can actually drag and get the information in like that web view look, just obviously on the page as still the extension. And you can actually move that back to how it was. You can drag that out a bit more. So if you need that a bit bigger, obviously you can have it a bit bigger there. So you can actually adjust the sizing of it just by moving the panel out or in, depending on your preference. Okay, and that's the same for all of the charts as well. As you saw there, obviously you can't do that with the old one. You can't even you can't drag that like I was showing you. It does have the arrows there, but I think that's because of the new update and so forth. But yeah, if you liked how they were there, obviously you get that. It's neat to initially, and all you've got to do is just drag that out. All you have to do is just drag that out, and then just tap enlarge charts. And obviously, that is virtually the same size as what we had on the other panel. The addition to this as well is the fact that you've got a sell price line as well as the break-even line as just a constant on the chart, so you can compare things like the buy box price, for example, to the sell price to see if the buy box frequently goes below your intended sell price and so forth, to see what kind of pricing you'd actually sell it for in comparison to what you want to sell it for. That's a new addition to the charts. Obviously, brand new color scheme and so forth. All of that stuff is in there. Now, the rest of BuyBotPro, I would say, is more or less the same, obviously just with that more modern feel to it. So let's move on to some of the other elements now. Things like Google Sheets have been changed in a way that is just amazing in my opinion. So if we go over to the Google Sheets settings in here, and let's go ahead and connect. So it's really simple just to connect your Google account, and then you can not only add sheets that you've already created on Google Sheets itself, you can create Google Sheets from within BuyBotPro at this point. And then what you can also do in the customize function is you've got all of the different tabs and so forth there that you'd have in the spreadsheet, all the different bits of analytical data. Now you can just drag and drop and move these things around however it is that you want them to be. You can clear that, you can do it from scratch and just drag these labels to have it in whatever order you want. Reset, have it like that. You can extend that, and if you want duplicates of information, you can just drag these things in there. If you want to see certain bits at the end when you scroll along as well as at the start, then that is completely up to you. Another great thing about this as well is the fact that when you go to create a sheet, you can choose this option here, add default headers. So in your spreadsheet, before you'd have to add the headers manually, just read what you've got in the customize section and then add the headers like date, ASIN, profit and so forth. You'd have to add them all in manually, and obviously as you change them around, you have to change them in the sheet. Now it does it for you, so you can have it add the headers in your spreadsheet for you, so you don't have to add that manually. And as you change them, it'll also change the order in the sheet as well. So that's a fantastic new addition, new change. Whereas in the old BuyBotPro, if we go into it right here and go to the Google Sheets settings, we have to add one, I think. I don't have to. There we go. Tap customize. What you'd have to do is actually move these around like this and type them in like this. And obviously, at the time, that was great, but then we thought, is there a way that we can make this even better? And so the way that it is now is just so much simpler. It really is a load off just being able to move these around like that and have them however you want, and then have it add in the default headers for you. So it is a major upgrade to that feature. Obviously, being able to create new sheets within BuyBotPro itself rather than just make it on Google Sheets and then add it in, it really does change the game. The VA toolbox itself has obviously been modernized and so forth, and the way that the VA stuff works in BuyBotPro has changed. So before, you would have to give your VA your BuyBotPro associated email and full license key. They'd log in, then they would come down to the VA toolbox just here, enter in their email, save, and then obviously they've got the start and finish here, the submit deal, the deal criteria and so forth. That's all there. Now, in the new version, if we go here, you'll notice that when you go to log in, there's sign in as VA, because you can actually set a password for your VAs now. So you no longer need your full license key for anything. They just need the BuyBotPro associated email. You obviously set up the email for them in the VA dashboard, and then you can set a password for them now as well. So the VA signed in, and obviously before, what you couldn't do was, give them access to the VA dashboard, because obviously there's lots of things in there that you just wouldn't want them to touch. So now if they were to say like enlarge the charts, for example, or for whatever reason go onto the web view, they have a very basic version of the web view dashboards. They can't access the same things you can access. So you can go in and use the wholesale sheet feature. You can go in and enter like the VA details and so forth, and change the settings and the criteria. Obviously, there's so much more that you can do on your side, whereas the VA, they will only ever get this basic version of that section with the bits that realistically they're the only bits that they would need to do their analysis, the web view, the charts, and then they can see their working times and the deals that they've submitted as well. The web view, let me just take an ASIN. Let's take this one, for example. So let me just get this. And let's go back into that web view. So the web view is a brand new thing in BuyBotPro there wasn't anything like this in the classic version. So it's just a way that you have your own kind of like BuyBotPro site, and you can do the analysis in a much kind of like bigger way with all of the same great analytical features and such in here as well. Another little change as well is with the manual sourcing accelerator. So there's not worlds of difference. However, obviously this one's got, again, that bit more of a modern look to it. And what you can also do as well in here is actually export this list to a CSV and open that up. And then with any data that is able to be grabbed from Amazon, it will show that in here. So if you want to work with all of those items in this kind of way, you've got all of that in a spreadsheet. And what you'll also notice is that throughout the new BuyBotPro, there are feedback buttons. So like here, there, and everywhere. So in the manual sourcing accelerator, over in the web view, you can submit any bug reports and also submit feature requests directly to the development team for BuyBotPro, and they can either fix whatever needs fixing or consider those features and so forth and implement them or add them to the list to be implemented at a later point. You can reach them directly from this button right here. So again, that's just for bugs and also feature requests as well. You can still reach out to the customer support team if you want to, but of course, if you've got like a certain bug or something that's happened to pop up, or if you've got a specific feature request, you can submit that straight to the development team and then monitor the progress of the feedback provided and so forth in this tab right here. So as you can see, BuyBotPro has really had a massive upgrade. It was amazing, but now it's even better. And that was the main driving force behind creating the new user interface. And hopefully this has helped you see some of the key differences, where some of your favorite bits are in both the old UI and now in the new UI. And hopefully this gives you a new insight into the new UI, the fantastic opportunities that await you when making that transition. Obviously, if you need any further help, reach out to the support team. There is a playlist on YouTube with all of the features individually. So you can, if you want to know about a certain feature, you can just watch that video instead of doing a massive walkthrough. There is a full walkthrough if you want to watch that. Everything you need and more is available on the YouTube site. I'm going to link that in the description below. Hopefully this has helped you. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you later.